Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you've noticed, but Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. wanted Suge Knight and Tupac gone. He wanted power. That's why he set up the fake Simon Says publishing company. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into some of this straight game.
Life is like those cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy Delray Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Hit the thumbs up button. Also subscribe to the channel. Like I always say, if you want to be one of the first people notified when I drop some of the Straight Game, please do me a favor and click on what appears to be that little bell notification right below this video. I'm gonna get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. With the last few videos that I've released, I don't know if you really understand what happened. A lot of people come with a lot of speculation, and they get a lot of the stuff from over the internet, and it kind of confuses people, muddy things up a little bit, if you will. But more importantly, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr., Reggie Wright Jr., he wanted Suge and Tupac gone. The thing that really opened my eyes to this situation was the fact that he has lied so many times in relation to the Tupac situation, the death of Tupac Shakur, that it's not even funny. The fact that what I told you and I showed you guys the other day, when you look at that situation involving the LAPD, where 3 days after Tupac's death, Reggie is informing the LAPD that Suge Knight has gang members on his payroll, paying them as security, and they're armed. Right? I want you to stop, pause, and think about that for a minute. Tupac is dead. You would think, just by any strange form of the imagination, that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. would have been sad, would have been confused, would have been bewildered, given the fact that he had one time, his security company had one time protected Tupac, but he was fired by Tupac approximately 13 days before Tupac was assassinated. We heard what Suge said. Reggie was partially responsible for that, and it was partially retaliation for being fired in conjunction and in connection with what I believe to be the situation that happened at the MGM Grand. But I want you to really hone in on this, if you will. So, Tupac is dead. 72 hours later, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. is 137. Phil Carson said that he was a 137 informant. Reggie is now voluntarily telling the LAPD that Suge has gang members on his payroll as security, and they're armed. Why would he do that? Why would he do that? Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. wanted Suge Knight out of the way. He wanted him locked up. See, he had already knew what most people didn't know or didn't really pay attention to back at that particular time, that Suge Knight was on probation. Right? And ultimately, 1 minute he's playing, I need Frank to come and testify, and the other minute he's playing, Frank, if you don't come testify, it's good, you duck the subpoena. And he's telling them all of these things. Once again, most people don't really understand that even on the night that Tupac got shot, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. was trying to control the narrative from the point that he found out that it already had went down, right? From Yaki Gaddafi taking him down to the police station without his mother's permission. That's why Yasmin Fula, Yaki Gaddafi's mother, was mad. She was the one who ultimately released the facts proving that Tupac fired Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. and his security company. So he's once again trying to jump in the gun, telling Frank Alexander to lie about Orlando trying to snatch the chain. Lying about the fact that Suge had told him who did it shortly afterwards. And that was a lie. Lying about the fact about the Nextel phones, saying that they didn't have a walkie-talkie feature, but then going into the grand jury involving Keith D and finally admitting it after 30 some odd years. That the walkie-talkie, the Nextel phones did have a walkie-talkie feature. And he tried to once again pass it off on Frank Alexander, saying that Frank didn't contact him that night, when he knew damn well that Frank didn't have a phone apparatus from earlier that day. These were all things that were known to Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. So now, you gotta ask yourself, Tupac is dead. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. claimed that he was the one that carried Tupac's ashes, right? Look it up. He was the one that carried Tupac ashes back to Suge Knight's house from the crematory. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what he said. So he's knowing all of these things. But then, just 72 hours later, he's telling the LAPD that the guy in Suge Knight who gave him an opportunity, who put him in position to be head of his own security company, he's telling the LAPD that this man has gang members on his payroll and that they're armed and dangerous and all of these things, which leads to a traffic stop. Like I said, I gotta give a shout out to MC Hammer. MC Hammer, stand-up guy for doing what he did. And you know how you know it's true is because the LAPD detailed actually what happened. And I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, once again, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. cannot explain to you why he did that. There's nothing he can possibly say as to why he did that. He can't deny it. He can't call it a lie. He can't. These people are not going to lie on him. The LAPD is not going to lie on him. Not like that. Not that detailed. Like I said, Phil Carson has told us who Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. really is. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. has told us who he really is, how vindictive he is. You understand what I'm saying? So, understanding the big picture, that wasn't the first time that he wanted Suge out of the way. Ultimately, Suge got out of the way. And then came the lie. The biggest lie of all. Which shows that it was true that he wanted Suge out of the way. What is that lie? You got to ask yourself, what is that lie? That lie is that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. ran death row while Suge Knight was in prison. We just heard Suge Knight in an interview basically saying that if he didn't say that Reggie ran death row, who else could say it? Suge has adamantly denied the fact that Reggie ever ran death row, point blank, period. Like I said, you had people hanging around thinking that this guy had power that he really didn't have. He didn't sign checks. Michelle A had the power of attorney to sign checks and things of that nature. Reggie didn't have that power. He was a go-between. He was a go-between. And the sad part about it is he had been running around, and the people that was around him thought that he ran things because he was trying to play the face. Michelle A didn't have to do that. Real power is quiet. Real power is subdued. Right? Real power is not trying to get you to believe and convince you that they doing things that, yeah. You understand what I'm saying? And so, like I said, when I showed you guys, I actually showed you guys. And like I said, for a lot of people, they had been lied to so much that they didn't really know what to believe. Right? Reggie had been lying to him so much, and it was this and all of these other things. And like I said, the sad part about it is knowing that he has done some of the telling and things that he's done to people. People still deal with this guy. Like I said, anybody that can look at that LAPD statement and really, hang out with this guy and be like, yeah, man, it's crazy. But people will do what they do, not trying to convince anybody or, telling you. But like I said, once again, when you see people hang out with an individual like that, this guy, like I said, he's done some cruddy things, man. Some real cruddy things. And so, once again, the karma that has come upon him, I know he has to sit down sometimes and really, truly, honestly think about, like, wow, even the fact that when he lied about being fired by Tupac, and then he came out, he was like, talking about how Yasmin had put the thing out. He was like, yeah, because I would have been like, basically he was saying, fuck Tupac, like, fuck that nigga, lying and saying that he didn't know he was fired, but he knew he was fired, and that's why he felt that way. Talking about, I didn't need that $300 to have an extra security on him. Most people don't even understand what he's saying. But that's what he was talking about. And so the fact that he had got fired and he lied about it, I'm like, wow. I didn't get the letter. Yeah, he did. Frank Alexander got the letter. You mean to tell me the guy that was the head of security didn't get it? And his security company was fired? You got to be kidding me. But that's how stupid that this guy thinks that people is, right? But more importantly, think about it. Tupac is dead, and Reggie's talking to the LAPD trying to send Suge to the penitentiary. It's crazy. It's crazy. And so he wanted Suge gone. Like I said, when Suge went to jail, he was running around telling people that he ran death row. And he didn't run death row. Michelle A. ran death row. Reggie didn't have the power of the person and to cut the checks. That's the person who runs things. The person who can cut the checks, the person who runs things. They can make sound decisions, right? And like Suge Knight had said, well, if he was running things, how come nobody else didn't hire him? If he was making it pop off like that, how come nobody else didn't hire him? And like I said, once again, he didn't know what he was doing no way. Most people don't understand this. I made the video in where Suge Knight publishing company was called Simon Says Publishing. You can look it up. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. had created another company called Simon Says. Same name. Same name. Why would he do that? Suge Knight is in jail. He's doing these remixes and things like that. Tupac remixes, claiming credit on songs. So much so that he would brag about him getting royalties from ASCAP, the Society of Authors, Composers, and Publishers, right? Which I'm a member of. And so I was like, wow. And then I put the two and two together. I'm like, Simon Says. So, like I said, him playing like he ran that road. If anything happened to Suge, just so happened while he was in jail or whatever, Reggie could come up quickly and be like, oh yeah, I'm in control of Simon Says. But it wasn't the same company. Get it? Like I said, once again, he's never, ever, and we all knew who Simon was. We knew that from Tupac. We knew that from the publishing company. We knew that from Snoop calling him Simon. Like I said, Reggie's a devious character, right? And not to his own advantage, to his disadvantage. Like I said, karma is undefeated, man. Undefeated. But I need you to understand, because most people haven't been able to really put it together. Like I said, go back and over and look at the videos that I did with the Simon Says publisher. When he was bragging about getting royalty checks, and you found out that the royalty check was like $115 or something like that, because Gullible John forgot to redact it out. He was talking about, oh, Simon Says, blah, blah, blah. Daz even said it. Daz said, yeah, Reggie created a publishing company in his name and was stealing his royalties. Dad said the same thing. You get it? He wanted the power. He had no talent. He had really no understanding of the music business and how it really, truly, honestly worked. You know, let him tell it. He was the one that effectuated the deal that allowed Snoop to go to Master P. He wasn't. He wasn't. Like I said, he was a go-between, right? You know, so the big picture is, even with the building on Wilshire, when Suge had went to jail, right? You know, there was some shenanigans going on with that. And Reggie the Wright Jr. had to settle with the IRS. Get it? A lot of people don't understand and know about that. So like I said, when you understand the situation in Las Vegas, with Tupac firing Reggie, Suge just spoke out about it, and then you understand the situation went down. Tupac is dead. 3 days after Tupac dead, Reggie talked to the police trying to get Suge arrested, trying to get Suge basically removed because he knew that Suge was on probation. And if he get caught with a gun or hanging out with felons and things like that, right, that he could possibly get violated. Which he did ultimately get violated. My understanding, it was for the kick with Orlando and the whole 9 yards. He wasn't even supposed to be around any kind of violent altercation like that. And that's what happened when you watched it on court. What the judge said to Suge when he sentenced him. So, but guess what? Even with Suge out the way, it still didn't mean that Reggie the Wright Jr. was going to be successful. Look at him now. Convicted drug dealer, money laundering. He failed Tupac and Suge, failed security guard, right? Failed drug dealer. He's basically failed at everything he's tried. Because that's the karma that you get when you try to do people dirty. Especially people that help you and help put food on your table. And I'm not talking about from no street perspective. I'm talking about Suge had a legitimate business that he was running and allowed Reggie to be ahead of the security over artists that were worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And he fucked that up too. So like I said, I had to make this video because I wanted y'all to understand that. You got to think, put that into the proper perspective. 3 days after Tupac died, this guy's talking to LAPD, informing them on Suge Knight, trying to get Suge Knight removed and violated and put it in prison. It's just as simple as that. It's just as simple as that. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, do me a favor, chime in. Tell me what you think. Because like I said, everything that I gave you is nothing but facts. Your boy Delray, straight game.
Life is like playing cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.